Hey everyone, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive, and today we're cracking open Jay Shetty's Think Like a Monk.
Oh yeah, this one's great.
It's packed with so much wisdom, and we thought it'd be awesome to kind of take you through some of the highlights, help you guys uncover your values, navigate negativity, and maybe even, help you discover your purpose.
Right. So much good stuff in this one.
So much good stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I was just blown away when I read about things like the 6 lower values,
Yeah.
swapping envy for inspiration.
It's huge.
And detaching from your ego.
Detachment. It's a big one.
Huge, right? So much to unpack here, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think, what makes this book so interesting is that it really is that blend, You've got the ancient wisdom of monk tradition, and then Shetty's, making it really practical for everyday life and everyday challenges.
Right, exactly. And he starts off strong, right from the beginning. He's like, let's talk about values.
Yeah.
He's like, most of us just inherit them without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Have you ever, stopped to think about where your values actually come from?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because so often we just kind of go through life and we adopt the values of our, families, maybe society, right?
Yeah.
The things we see on social media.
Yeah.
And it's so important to examine those and figure out, do these actually resonate with me, or am I just kind of going with the flow?
Totally. And he has this exercise. I love this.
Okay.
He's like, write down your values and then really try to trace back, where did this come from?
Uh-huh.
Is it something that, like my mom always said?
Yeah.
Or is it something that, is really true to me? It's kind of like an archaeological dig for your beliefs.
It is. You're digging down through the layers,
Yeah.
trying to get to the root of where these things originated.
I love it. I love it. He also recommends something that I was like, ooh, okay, this is getting a little too close to home.
What's that?
Tracking your time.
Oh, yeah.
So how much time are you spending on family and friends,
Right.
your health, personal growth?
Your actions matching your words.
That's when it gets real. Because it's like you can say, oh, family's super important to me, but if you're working late every night and you're never seeing your family,
Yeah.
that's a disconnect, right?
Actions speak louder than words.
Right.
It's a really powerful way to check in and see if you're actually living in alignment with those stated values.
I think that's such a powerful tool. And when I think about values, I immediately think about Shetty's story, right? This guy was on track to be a, high-powered corporate dude. He's got this amazing education. And then he's like, I'm going to go be a monk.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how his family reacted to that.
And he talks about it in the book, his mom was kind of confused. She was like, so you're going to seek enlightenment. Does that mean you're just going to sit around all day?
Right. What does that even mean?
It really highlights the clash that can happen between our own values and what society kind of expects of us.
Totally. It makes you think about all the compromises we make to fit in, to please other people.
Right. Are you living for yourself, or are you living for other people's expectations?
Right. And, Shetty doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. No, we're talking about values, but he's like, okay, let's talk about negativity.
The big N.
The big N. He actually he has this whole concept called the evil king goes hungry.
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
Love this one.
What do you think about that one?
Such a great analogy, because, he says that negativity is like this evil king.
Yeah.
And the more we dwell on these negative thoughts and feelings, the more we feed that king, the stronger it gets.
Right.
But if we can learn to shift our focus, starve that negativity, it loses its power.
It makes sense. But,
Yeah.
it's easy to say, don't dwell.
Right.
How do you actually do that?
Right. Well, that's where Shetty's monk training comes in.
Okay.
He has some really practical advice.
Okay.
One technique that he talks about is becoming an objective observer of your own negativity.
What does that mean?
So instead of getting swept up in the emotion, you kind of step back. You look at it without judgment. You observe it as if it's happening to someone else.
Oh, so you're creating space between you and the feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that space allows you to respond with more clarity and wisdom instead of just reacting emotionally.
I love that. It reminds me of this quote from Father Thomas Keating.
Oh, yeah.
And Shetty shares this in the book. He says, there is no commandment that says we have to be upset by the way other people treat us. So powerful.
Right. So good. It's such a reminder that we have a choice in how we respond to things.
Yeah, we have more control than we think.
Absolutely.
And I think another important point he makes is that negativity is a trait, not an identity.
Right. It's not who you are. It's something you experience.
We all have negative thoughts and feelings.
We all do.
But that doesn't mean we're negative people.
Right. And remembering that can help us be more compassionate with ourselves.
Right. When you're like beating yourself up for having a bad day.
Exactly.
It's like, wait a second. This is just a moment in time.
It's a temporary state.
It's not my whole identity.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay. But let's get like really practical here.
Okay. Let's do it.
How do we actually transform this negativity?
So Shetty gives us this really simple 3-step process. He calls it spot, stop, swap.
Okay.
Spot. You become aware of the negativity.
Okay.
Stop. You consciously choose to stop dwelling on it.
Got it.
And swap. You swap it for a more positive and empowering thought or perspective.
Okay. I can see how that would work. But can you give me like a real world example?
Sure. So let's say you're feeling envious of someone's success, right? Maybe you're scrolling through social media and you see somebody who just got an amazing promotion or they're on this incredible vacation.
Yeah, been there.
So instead of getting stuck in that envy, you can spot it.
Okay.
Stop dwelling on it. And then swap it for inspiration.
Oh.
So you can think, okay, this person's success is actually motivating me to go after my own goals.
So you're using it as fuel.
Exactly. You're turning that negativity into something that can actually propel you forward.
Love it. I love it. And you know, speaking of facing challenges, Shetty doesn't sugarcoat the role of fear.
Fear's the big one.
Right? He's like, we all have fears.
We do.
And he talks about his own journey facing his fears through meditation.
Powerful stuff.
Super inspiring. And he believes that we can uncover the root of our fears by repeatedly asking ourselves this question, what am I really scared of?
Go deep.
Right. So he gives this example from his own life. He realized that a lot of his anxiety stemmed from this deep fear of not making his parents happy.
Oh, wow.
It's like it makes you realize that sometimes our fears come from these like really deep-seated beliefs.
Yeah, beliefs that we might not even be aware of.
That we haven't even questioned. And then Shetty suggests detachment as like a key to overcoming fear.
Detachment.
I'm gonna be honest. When I hear the word detachment, I immediately think of like...
Cold.
Yeah, cold, unemotional.
Shutting down.
Not caring.
But that's not what he means, right?
No, not at all. He's not saying we should become robots. Detachment is about recognizing that fear is a natural human emotion. It's going to come up. But it doesn't have to control us.
So you're not denying the fear.
Yep.
You're just choosing not to let it, like, paralyze you.
Exactly. You're acknowledging it, you're observing it, but you're not letting it dictate your actions.
Oh, I like that. And he tells this story about a successful attorney.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one.
Who was terrified to pursue a new career path. And through coaching, she realizes that her root fear was actually failure.
The fear of not being good enough.
And being seen as incompetent, which is so relatable.
It is. It's something so many of us struggle with.
And by facing that fear head on, she was able to break free from its grip.
So powerful. It's such a reminder that facing our fears can actually open up new possibilities.
And that courage isn't the absence of fear.
Right.
It's about being afraid and doing it anyway.
It's that willingness to act despite the fear. That's true courage.
Okay. So we've covered identifying values, combating negativity, confronting fear.
What's next?
What's next on Shetty's path to a fulfilling life? Well, next we delve into the idea of Dharma, which is essentially finding your unique purpose.
Dharma. Okay, that's another one of those words that I hear all the time, but like I'm not sure I fully grasp it.
Right. It can be a little elusive.
Yeah.
So Shetty breaks it down for us. It says Dharma is about understanding your unique calling, your reason for being.
Okay.
It's about aligning your actions with your inherent strengths and passions to create a life of meaning and impact.
Oh, okay. So it's more than just figuring out your career path.
It is.
Yeah.
It's about understanding how you can uniquely contribute to the world in a way that feels authentic to you.
That makes a lot more sense.
And to help us understand this concept a little better, he actually suggests using the Vedic personality test.
Oh, the Vedic personality test.
Have you ever heard of this?
I have heard of it, but I'm not sure I've ever taken it.
So it categorizes people into 4 varnas.
Okay.
Leader, teacher, merchant, and laborer.
Okay.
And it's not about putting people in boxes. It's more about giving you insights into your natural inclinations and how those inclinations might manifest in your life.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah, definitely. But Shetty makes it very clear that finding your Dharma is not a passive process.
Okay.
It's not about just sitting around meditating and waiting for it to magically reveal itself.
Yeah, you got to do something.
Right. You have to experiment. You have to get out there and test drive different paths to see what feels aligned.
I love how he uses the analogy of food.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
He's like, we all know what foods we enjoy, right?
Right.
We like rate them in our minds all the time. He's like, Do the same thing with your experiences. Pay attention to what energizes you, what makes you feel fulfilled.
It's such a simple but powerful concept, right?
It is.
It's about tapping into your intuition and really listening to that inner guidance system.
And when you find those things, those activities that really light you up, it's like discovering a hidden superpower.
It is. Your energy just soars. You feel this deep sense of purpose.
It's like you're tapping into your authentic self. And that's where the magic happens.
That's where the magic happens. This is amazing. We've covered so much already.
I know.
And I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
I know. Me too. So much to unpack here.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
But for now, we're going to have to pause our deep dive.
Yes.
We're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we'll dive into the complexities of the ego.
Yes. Definitely a lot more to explore. So stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
All right. We are back and ready to keep diving into Think Like a Monk.
Yeah. So much good stuff still to uncover.
So much. So we left off talking about Dharma and purpose.
Right. Finding your calling.
But now we're stepping into a territory that can be a little like...
Ooh, tricky.
Tricky, right? We're talking about the ego.
The ego.
Yeah.
Shetty calls it the double-edged ego.
I like that.
Because it can be a source of both confidence and insecurity.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. It's like that voice in our head that's either like, you got this, or you're a total mess.
Right, exactly. And it's constantly chattering away.
Constantly. So what is it about the ego that makes it have like so much power over us? You know?
Well, I think the ego is essentially our sense of self.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
But it's often a distorted sense of self.
Oh.
Based on external validation.
Okay.
Comparing ourselves to others.
Right. Instead of like looking inward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that part of us that craves recognition, seeks control, and fears vulnerability.
Oh. So it's like we're building our identity on other people's opinions and expectations instead of our own values.
Yeah. And that's a recipe for trouble.
Yeah.
Because when our self-worth hinges on external factors, it becomes incredibly fragile.
Right. So then any criticism or rejection just feels like a punch in the gut.
Exactly. It can be devastating.
Yeah.
And Shetty talks about how the ego often masks insecurity.
Right.
We might project this image of confidence on the outside.
Right. Fake it till you make it.
But internally, we're struggling with self-doubt. It's like wearing a suit of armor.
Okay. Yeah. To protect ourselves.
Exactly. To protect ourselves from getting hurt.
But eventually, like, life's going to throw us a curveball, right?
Oh, absolutely. Life will always find a way to crack that armor.
And then what happens?
Well, then we're forced to confront those insecurities head on, whether it's through setbacks, failures, or even just meeting someone who challenges our self-perception.
Right. Those moments can be humbling for sure.
And Shetty has a great line in the book. He says, if you don't break your ego, life will break it for you.
Ooh, okay. So it's better to do it on our own terms.
Yeah. It's about being proactive in dismantling that fragile sense of self.
He talks about his own experience leaving the ashram and how that was a huge decision that really challenged his ego.
Especially since he'd already told everyone he was going to be a monk for life.
I bet. I mean, that must have been tough.
Yeah, I think it's something a lot of us can relate to. You know those moments when things don't go according to plan?
Right.
It can be a blow to our pride.
Totally.
Yeah.
So then how do we deal with that? Shetty talks about detaching from the ego.
Detachment.
But again, I think about like not caring, you know?
Right. It's not about becoming indifferent. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't tied to external achievements or other people's approval.
Okay.
You can still strive for success. You can still care about what others think.
Yeah.
But your fundamental sense of self-worth remains intact.
Okay. So it's more about like inner strength and resilience.
Exactly. It's about finding that solid ground within yourself.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense. But how do we actually detach from the ego? You know, what does that look like practically?
Well, Shetty gives some really practical tips.
Yeah.
He encourages us to become aware of how our ego shows up.
Okay.
Notice those moments when you feel the need to be right all the time.
Oh, yeah. Guilty.
Or when you're constantly comparing yourself to others.
Social media doesn't help.
Social media definitely doesn't help. And then he suggests challenging those ego-driven impulses.
So if I find myself like getting defensive in a conversation, I could pause and be like, is this my ego talking?
Exactly. That's about creating that space for self-awareness and conscious choice.
I like that. And I think gratitude plays a big role too, right?
Absolutely. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to the ego.
Because when you're focusing on what you're grateful for, it shifts your focus away from those like ego-driven desires.
Right. It's about appreciating what you have instead of constantly wanting more.
He even talks about like reframing compliments and insults.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So instead of letting praise go to your head,
Mm-hmm.
you use it as motivation to keep growing.
Right.
And when you receive criticism, you view it as an opportunity for improvement.
Exactly, instead of a personal attack.
So you're not getting defensive. You're actually like, okay, how can I learn from this?
You're open to feedback. You're open to growth.
And he talks about seeking feedback from people you trust.
But choosing those advisors wisely, right?
Right. It's not about like needing everyone to validate you. It's
Quite
about
got it.
finding people who genuinely want to see you succeed.
Yeah, people who give you honest and constructive guidance.
And then he drops this bomb. He's like, service is a powerful antidote to the ego.
Oh, yeah, Siva.
When we shift our focus from ourselves to helping others, our sense of self-importance naturally diminishes.
It's like that saying, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others.
Right. And I think that ties back to Dharma, too.
Absolutely.
When we're living in alignment with our purpose,
Yeah.
our actions naturally flow towards service.
It creates this beautiful ripple effect.
Yeah.
You know, you're focused on giving back, making a difference. Your ego takes a back seat and you're creating positive change in the world.
It's like a win-win for everyone involved.
Exactly.
Okay. But I can't help but think about that other side of the ego coin.
What do you mean?
We talk about all the ways the ego can inflate us.
Right. Make us feel superior.
But what about when the ego whispers like, you're not good enough?
Oh, yeah. Self-doubt. That's a big one.
That can be so debilitating. You know,
Yeah.
especially when it feels so deeply ingrained.
And that's what we're going to tackle next. How to transform that self-doubt into a catalyst for growth.
All right, so we're back. You know, we've explored values, negativity, even the ego with all its complexities.
Right.
But now I think it's time to talk about something that I think so many of us crave.
Yeah.
Genuine confidence. You know, how do we build that?
Yeah, that unshakable self-belief.
Yes, exactly. And I think this is where Shetty's insights are just so valuable.
Yeah. He doesn't offer like those quick fixes or superficial tips.
No.
He really digs into the root causes of insecurity
Right.
and gives us a framework for cultivating lasting self-worth.
It's not about like, you know, faking it till you make it.
Right. It's not about pretending
It's about addressing those insecurities head on.
and building that confidence from the inside out.
Yes. And he starts by making this really important distinction between confidence and ego.
Oh, yeah.
That's crucial.
So he's saying that true confidence comes from self-awareness and acceptance.
Yeah. Knowing yourself fully.
Your strength and your weaknesses.
It's embracing the whole package.
Right. Imperfections and all.
Yeah. It's about being comfortable in your own skin.
Yes. And I think that's what makes people magnetic, you know? When you're confident in who you are.
It radiates. It shows.
Yeah, you just have this aura of peace and self-assurance.
But what about those like nagging doubts, you know? Even when we're trying to like embrace our imperfections, that inner critic can be so loud.
Oh, yeah. The inner critic never sleeps.
Never sleeps. So how do we deal with that voice that tells us, you know, we're not good enough?
Well, Shetty suggests using that same stop-swap technique that we talked about for negativity.
Oh.
This time, you apply it to those negative thoughts about yourself.
Okay. So you spot the negative self-talk,
Mm-hmm.
you consciously stop dwelling on it, and then you swap it out for a more positive belief.
Exactly. You're training your mind to focus on your strengths and accomplishments.
So it's like shifting from self-criticism to self-compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of self-compassion, Shetty dedicates a whole section of the book to that.
Oh, I love that.
Because it's so true. We're often so much harder on ourselves
Oh my gosh. Yes.
than we would ever be on a friend.
We would never talk to our friends the way we talk to ourselves sometimes.
Never. And Shetty reminds us to treat ourselves with that same kindness and understanding that we'd offer someone we care about.
So it's like practicing self-forgiveness.
Yes.
Focusing on our effort rather than just the outcome.
Right.
Celebrating our progress.
Instead of fixating on those perceived failures.
Right, because we're all work in progress.
We are.
And mistakes are inevitable.
They're part of the learning process.
Yeah, it's like if we weren't so afraid of messing up, how much more could we achieve?
Absolutely. When we have that self-compassion, it creates space for growth.
And transformation.
Transformation, exactly.
And I love how he also talks about celebrating our small wins.
Oh, yeah. Those are important.
Because sometimes we get so focused on the big picture
The end goal.
that we forget to acknowledge all those little victories along the way.
And those little victories add up.
They do. They build momentum.
He even suggests keeping a victory log.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, where you write down even the smallest accomplishments.
So it's like a physical reminder of all the things that you're capable of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's proof of your progress.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to start doing that. He also talks about, the people we surround ourselves with.
Yeah, our community is so important.
Having those supportive people.
The cheerleaders.
The cheerleaders who believe in us.
Who encourage our growth.
And also recognizing, when relationships are not serving us.
Yeah.
When they're actually holding us back.
Sometimes we need to let go of those relationships that are draining us.
Right. If you're constantly around negativity and criticism.
Yeah, it's going to chip away at your confidence.
For sure. So it's about being mindful of the company we keep.
Absolutely. Prioritizing those relationships that nourish our souls.
And support our growth.
Okay.
So putting it all together, building genuine confidence is about understanding the difference between confidence and ego.
Right.
Practicing self-compassion, celebrating our wins.
And surrounding ourselves with a supportive community.
Yes. It's a journey.
It is.
But the rewards are huge.
They are. It's about cultivating that inner strength and resilience to navigate life's ups and downs.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Think Like a Monk, I'm just so struck by how simple yet profound his message is.
It is. It's back to basics in a lot of ways.
It is.
Yeah.
Going back to those core values.
Cultivating inner peace.
Living with intention and purpose.
It's like tapping into that inner monk within each of us.
Yes.
That wise and compassionate voice that can guide us.
And it's a reminder that we don't have to figure it all out alone.
We have each other.
We have the wisdom of these ancient traditions to support us.
And to our fellow knowledge seekers out there,
yes,
we encourage you to take Shetty's teachings to heart.
Experiment.
Explore.
Discover what it truly means to think like a monk.
And how it can transform your life.
That's it for this deep dive.
We hope you found it insightful.
And inspiring. Until next time, keep those monk minds engaged.
And keep diving deep into the things that matter most.
恭喜你又听完了一本书，订阅以便不错过更多精彩节目，也别忘了分享给你的朋友，一起快乐听书学英语。